Operation Michael resulted in over 1,400,000 casualties. On the German side, a grand total of 688,000 lives were lost, and the Entente and its allies lost over 863,000 men. Even though strategically one might say that the Entente won this battle, when these many lives are lost, nobody truly wins.
Operation Michael was the code name to an offensive German military plan utilized in World War I. It also goes by other names like the Ludendorff Offensive, German March Offensive, or Spring Offensive. The battle itself involved thousands of men and the use of chemical weaponry like mustard gas. Operation Michael held a great significance in World War I, as it not only would breach British and French defensive lines, but even drive out Entente forces to the sea. As I mentioned before, the Spring Offensive held great significance in the Great War. It was launched in the Hindenburg Line on March 21st in 1918 and ended on April 5th in the same year. Its main purpose was to break the enemy defensive line and advance north in order to cut off railway supplies to ever reach the British troops, specifically the BEF, otherwise known as the British Expeditionary Force, which was essentially a small but highly efficient army force located at the north of France in order to support the left-wing French armies.
The main military leader who initiated Operation Michael is Erich Ludendorff, who was worried about the participation of the United States in the war and wanted to weaken the Entente forces as quickly as possible. On the other side of the battle, we have Douglas Haig and Ferdinand Foch, who through their determination and quick thinking managed to stall the German forces out of their resources.
Operation Michael involved several countries like the German Empire, Australia, United States, France, United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Canada. As the conflict itself was meant to be a quick siege of territory, many mobile units were used, especially German stormtroopers on the attacker side. On the defensive side, as they were located on the Western Front, where trench warfare was customary, many non-mobile troops were used.
The equipment used in Operation Michael was by far the most deadly in the war, as procuring victory in these battles could essentially mean the end of the war or in the minimum a huge advantage. Artillery, trench mortars, and machine guns were quite common in combat. Also, as most of the defensive lines were located in trenches, chemical weapons like mustard gas were also quite common. Hand-to-hand weapons were also used more frequently than in other battles, as the German forces wanted a fast and mobile force to procure a lot of territory fast, and to take control of supply roads as quickly as possible. In March of 1918, the Entente believed that a decisive move would be soon made by the German forces, and they were right. The German army was planning a surprise offensive in which its objective was meant to divide the French and British forces on the Western Front. At the beginning, the Germans wanted to capture strategically important areas of Amiens in order to divide its enemy forces. This would essentially nullify any hopes of a combined counterattack. Another reason to weaken the Entente forces as quickly as possible was because of the decision of the United States to enter the war. If nothing was done, the German forces would be in shambles from the additional support of the American troops. So in order to procure an equal playing field, this attack had to be made. Fortunately for the German side, the British expected a spread out attack and that the Germans would outflank them, so their forces were thinly spread throughout the West. But this could not have been further from the truth, as German forces concentrated on infiltrating strongly in one central area. As a result of this miscalculation by the Entente forces, its armies were divided and forced to retreat. The Germans took advantage of this new space and rapidly took control of the land around Somme. This outcome proved disastrous for the Allies. But not everything could have been so perfect for the Germans, as persistent tactics by the British forces, support from other nations like Australia, and the lack of resources for German forces